and welcome back to
Inspired the Game. I'm Sean.
And I'm Lola. If you enjoy what you see here, please support our channel by subscribing down below.
And if you've already subscribed, thank you very much. We have been chosen. Ooh.
Today we are talking about Artisans of Splendent Vale. Artisans of Splendent Vale is a delightful campaign-style adventure game for 1 to 4 players. I actually saw this game first in a video by Board Game Garden, and I was in love as soon as I saw it. So she did an unboxing of it, and I saw the components inside this big, beautiful adventure book with these lovely illustrations, and there were books inside. The whole heart of it were books. And there's nothing more than I love in this world than board games and books. And when you put them together, well, that gets me really excited. So ever since then, I was really excited to get this game. I heard from another reviewer that it's very cozy, which also excited me because I love a cozy game. And we actually got it for, I think it was Valentine's Day, right?
Yes.
Yes. And we have been playing it ever since. We've gotten a good way through it to get a really good feel for it. And we are finally ready to bring a review to you. So to play Artisans of Splendent Vale, everyone will get a book for their character, and there are 4 characters, as well as meeple and their own pencil and various cards attributed to their characters.
Don't forget the bookmark.
And the bookmark! Oh my gosh, I did not mean to forget the bookmark.
You start with your book, you get your background story, and it helps you set up your beginning deck of cards, which are the interludes in between the adventures. Little chapters of what's happening in your character's life.
And so essentially while you're playing it, you're looking at a map and you decide where you want to go to adventure that day. And you read the entry corresponding into the logbook that you have, and it guides you through an adventure. So there's a lot of reading back and forth. As you read, you'll get certain options of what to do, different choices to make. There will be maps within the books where you will see numbers that will lead to new logbook pages to the next part of the story or things that you find there. Mm-hmm. And some of these will also lead to adventures in the action map book. So when you get to one of those, you open up to the corresponding pages, you pull out the required meeples and all of the material that you're going to need, and you get to have a lovely battle. And you're pretty much playing like that until you're done for the day. So it is organized within a series of days. So you play a day, and at the end of the day you have, as Sean mentioned, interlude cards, which give you extra things that you can do or advance the story in different ways. And then you record everything and you can start on a new day and for a new adventure, deciding where on the map that has been unlocked that you get to go this time. That's pretty much the crux of the game. So the artwork in Artisans of Splendent Vale is very lovely. It's in your books. It's obviously, you see the front of the box. It's beautiful, and the adventure maps are gorgeously illustrated. It's very thematic as well, and the whole thing just really oozes the theme. One thing that I really love about it is the meeples. Now it's interesting, and it begs the question is, usually in a big adventure campaign style game, you get a whole bunch of minis, and meeples, minis, which is better? An interesting question. And sometimes it's those minis, but definitely in this case, the meeples are better. They have so many character, they have a little artwork on it, they're different sizes, and oh my goodness, are they fun to play with. It's like they're not taking themselves too seriously. They're adorable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would find minis in this game it would clash so much with the rest of the artwork. The meeples and the screen printing on them, it fits it to a T.
Yeah, it really does, because the whole theme, it's cozy, it's sweet. This is a game where kindness shines through, being good to each other. There's you have your little battles and skirmishes, there's adventures that happen, but there's this overall theme that is just so pleasant and sweet. Sweet is one of the best words for it. And to me, it was really exciting finding this because you don't always get a game like this. It's not easy to necessarily find. You've got your Gloomhavens and your Nemesis, and I love these games, but it's wonderful to have a game that has a different approach to things where it does matter what you do, how you connect to people, where the story is developing, and even interpersonal relationships are developing as well in interesting ways. The aesthetic is an important aspect of it.
Yeah, and this game is very unique in the way it deals with that. As an adventure game, it has a lot going for it that you don't find in other adventure games. One of those things is the inclusivity that's baked right into the game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really, really loved when I first heard about this game, because I think inclusivity in board games is something really, really important. And there are a few games that approach it, but I've never seen it done so thoroughly as this game does. And I think that that's wonderful. So each of the characters, they have their various pronouns. It's not heteronormative at all. The characters are even, none of them are Caucasian, which is so awesome to see. And they're also not stereotypical body size, or at least not all of them are. And that's a really nice thing too. So different body sizes are represented. People of color are there, as well as a variety from the LGBTQ community as well, which is fantastic. And it's wonderful to play a game that is specifically very inclusive.
And as well, each character has their own voice, their own story, which is involved in those logbooks. There is a common narrative thread that is in every single book, but each chapter, each section has a bit where maybe one of the other characters speaks. So I may be reading it, the narrative, but it tells me to stop here because Lola's character has something to say at this point, and she brings her own voice to it. She literally brings her own voice to it, which is adorable. But it's her character's perspective, and you really get a feeling for how that character views this world, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. Like we're spending so much time laughing because the interactions, there's a lot of really funny stuff there, and it's really a lot of fun to play around with. The books are what excited me most from the beginning of it, and it's still what I enjoy the most. So like if you get a narrative campaign game where there's a logbook, that's not unusual, but what's neat about this is it's a logbook that we all have. We all have our own version in our own book. So if there's a designated narrator, they're reading it, but you get to follow along, which is really nice as a visual person. So I like being able to follow along and not have to read it all. But then it's extra fun to do those little interjections. So it's like, ooh, I get to say something here, and you can say it in your character, and it's a lot of fun. And it's neat because the overall narrative is the same, but yet there's differences in each of our books. Like a good example of that is we will have different places that we're exploring where we'll both have a picture of where we are, like a map of the area that we're in, and with different numbers on the page of places that we can explore with a corresponding log number. But sometimes we have some different numbers. Like I might see something up in that tree that his character doesn't see, and so I can go and look at that, and it's my own little log entry, and maybe I found a potion ingredient up there for when I play the Harinyas who crafts potions, and then that's exciting. I found something specifically for me. So there's a lot of fun to explore there.
And there are gaps, of course, for each character. So with a two-player game such as what we're playing, we don't have to play all four characters. We just skip those characters that aren't at the table, and that also adds to replayability later. We're looking forward to finishing this campaign and then going back with the two characters that we didn't play, and even though the overall story is going to be the same, we're going to see different perspectives of it because we're playing the two characters that we have not heard from yet.
Yeah, and get subsequently some different aspects of the story. But what's really neat with that is most of the characters do things to help each other out. So like Harenya, she makes potions that she can give to others, like healing potions and even like bombs and all sorts of different things. Soraya will empower items to make them more strong. things like that. But even though if you're not playing those characters, you can still utilize their power. Both the interludes and some areas within the logbook lets you interact with them if they aren't there, so you can still have some of these benefits, which is really remarkable. So you aren't hindered for their lack of presence, but and so you get to benefit from them even if they aren't there, which is great. Yeah, and there really is a choose your own adventure aspect to this. So you get to make choices all the time. Like you come up to this closed up door, and well, there's enough space that maybe Harinia can squeeze through. Should she try it? Or maybe somebody else wants to use their telekinesis to, I don't know, do something telekinetic. I don't know, but different choices will have potentially some different outcomes. Like if I squeeze through, maybe I successfully can open the door from the other side. Maybe I get stuck and I actually have an injury. So there's a variety of things that can happen, and it is built up in such a way that the main storyline will always progress, but it can progress in some little bit of different ways. Like you might not find something that you otherwise would have found. Which leads to another interesting thing with the little maps in the books with the little numbers is it's sometimes hard to find them. I actually recommend, if you don't have the best eyesight, to actually use a magnifying glass, just to make sure, because we have had times where we've almost missed some things, and some non-essential numbers are hidden especially well. So maybe you see it, maybe you don't. Maybe something's harder for you, maybe it's not. It makes it very variable, and it makes it very interesting.
Yeah, and we thought we'd covered every single map and gotten every single number, and starting to think, well, it's like the old highlights, trying to find the hidden objects. It's sometimes more difficult than others. And then we ran into an encounter that said, now if you have this item, and I'm like, well, when would I have gotten that? I must have missed a number on a map somewhere.
It was a key. If we had a key, we didn't have to beat the door down while we were being attacked by vines all over the place. So as you go through this logbook, you will eventually have different events that happen, which then instruct you to open up the adventure book and to turn to certain pages. And this is a really fun part of the game. So to be clear, you're gonna need to enjoy reading a lot if you're interested in this game, but there's a good amount of play as well on these adventure maps. So you turn to the pages, and it tells you all the creatures that you're going to need, how many to set up based on player count, what's going to happen, what's your objective. Everything is very clearly expressed on the page, how much health everybody has. So you get to gather up what items you want to bring with you and get started.
Yeah, and on the top of that same page is the initiative. This is the the order that everybody is going to play in, and as far as the characters go, they mix that up between each of these action scenes, and the monsters are doled out in there. And if you're playing with a lower player count, then you skip the numbers and the characters that aren't there, and you just take your turn as it comes up.
Right from the beginning, I really enjoyed the mechanism for battles that they have developed. So you have a pool of dice that have certain action sides on it that will determine if that die can be used for a defense, for an attack, for a movement, or whichever. And it's a decent pool, and every time you take a turn, you get to roll 3 new dice to add to it. At the same time, the different mobs, the different groups of the things you are fighting, they have a collective pool of hit points that's delineated by a dial. The whole way it works out is really neat. It's simple, but I find it works really effectively. It's easy to run, but it's nuanced and just a lot of fun to run. I really enjoy the action scenes a lot.
Yeah, so instead of, if you have 4 of those, of that character that you're fighting, you're not tracking, oh, number 1 has 3 points of damage, and number 2 has 4, and number 3 hasn't been touched at all. It's that collective pool, and as you reach that threshold of how many hit points one of them takes, you take that number away from the pool and remove one of those characters, and continue on from there.
Yeah, it really simplifies not to have a lot of individual creatures out there with their individual hit points working on. It's a collective. And even while you're playing these adventures, you will often be directed to read a certain entry in the logbook. Like maybe you've reached something's happened, maybe some critical bad guy has been killed, or a certain amount of time has passed, and it will direct you to a certain log entry, and you read that, and now the story is progressing. So maybe now you add more mobs to the board, or something else happens, and then you continue playing the scene out. It's neat how those little entries add and progress the story of the scene that you're playing out. I think that the battle maps, those action scenes, are really effective, and I really love the balance of the reading through the various entries, the choose your own adventure aspect of it, interspersed with different action scenes you get to play out, and you can get injured as well. And the neat thing is, though, because it is this friendly, sweet, cozy game, you can't die, but you can get really injured, and you can have injuries that carry over, and you can even get lasting scars. And what's neat when you have injuries, which is based on you have, say, a certain amount of toughness, maybe 6 toughness to begin with, and as you gain as you gain hits against you, that goes up and up, and you would gain a full-on injury once you have exhausted that toughness. And that injury will go forward into future games, but it can heal over time as well, which is nice. So there's that aspect of, but they hinder you as well. So say if you got a sprained ankle, that's going to affect how maybe you can move in the future. We don't know. We haven't really had much for injuries. We've done pretty well.
But it is they've designed it in such a way that say it is a sprained ankle. Now you take an action and later your next day's adventure, and it says now if you have a sprained ankle, you now have aggravated it, and this effect now happens. And so it's all built into there.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, when you heal, if you have no other minor injuries in between, then you get to heal one of your major injuries and eventually get rid of that effect, but you still keep in your log that you still had a sprained ankle at some point, because if you sprain it again, it might be worse this time.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how it's all built together. Well, and that leads me into one of the next things I really love about this game, and that is crafting. So each character has their own skill and ability to craft. So mine that I'm playing right now, Harenia, as I mentioned, she creates potions. She's a bit of a herbalist and creates fun things that way. Soraya can read the will of objects and finds runes and is able to improve the power of different objects that people own.
And Javi, as an artificer, just takes certain elements like gold and brass and materia and whatnot, and uses them to construct either additions to his prosthetic arm or just other weapons for him to use.
Yeah, and the last character is a tailor and creates clothing that can help support the other characters. We haven't played that one, so we aren't as familiar. But this is kind of, in a way, the crux of the game. They're artisans, so they each have their own craft. And I love that this is a huge part of the game as well. So you get to develop your craft. So for me as Harenia, I'll be finding different potion ingredients. Like if I find some newt tails or some wormwood or different herbs and such, it's kind of really exciting. And then later on, when I have a chance to craft, I can see how to put them together. I can learn different recipes out in the wild when we're having our explorations, or I can figure them out on my own by putting ingredients together and see what it makes. And that's really exciting. I love this crafting, this creating part of it. And again, that goes into an element that is so neat about this game that makes it a little different from most of the things we've played, because you do get these battles, you do have the adventure in the books, but then you're also busy crafting and creating. And it's really neat how they pulled all of these elements together within one game. They each craft in different ways, which is really interesting. So Farah, for instance, has like an inspiration board, kind of like a vision board, and actually gets stickers that go onto the board. And when certain stickers are beside that have numbers that show a logbook entry that you get to read.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's how it works. And yeah, that's another thing, is there's lots of stickers here too. So when you get the game, hopefully you can get a recharge pack if you want to play it again, but you can buy those on their website, which gives you new little character books as well as the stickers, because you will be upgrading some of the materials you have, whether it's a weapon you have that gets stronger or you gain extra skills. And part of the skill development too is a neat thing about it. So we all have our own various chart, where as we gain experience points, we can fill in the next circle to advance. But what's cool is you can choose what direction you're going. So it's fun to really explore your little map of skills and develop new skills to become stronger and more interesting.
See, I had no idea how that worked, because Javi, it's the same thing. His crafting and his experience are tied in together.
Yeah.
So I don't have any skills yet.
That's okay. We still love you. But it's fantastic. It's a fantastic game, and we highly recommend it. We have more to talk about. I'm just kind of jumping the gun here. So let's talk about the map. So this is another thing that it includes, and it's an old school map. You fold it out, and it really helps to organize everything. So first you have the entire valley represented, and there's different locations to go to that you unlock as you unlock the story. So you get to write in what that location is and its corresponding number. And once you've unlocked it, that means you're free to go to it. So when you start a new day, and each game is a day, you can decide where you want to go to, and you look up that logbook and you start reading, and that's how your days begin. Unless you want to stay home. Because you can have a game where your choice that day is to just stay home, and you can craft, you can visit the market to get some more materials that you might need for future crafting, or you can do something from your to-do list, because you are actually gathering a to-do list of things to do. So the map really helps us organize where we've been and where we're going. Now the reverse side of it, for each day, has a special area, and as you actually go through the story, as well as your game progresses and you're going through, it tells you on whatever day you are exactly what to write in about what happened, so that you can keep track of the various things that are happening to follow the storyline. And I don't know, it might have some more relevance later on as well, but that's a really nice element, and that we completely stay in track and well organized with all of these little areas to write down what happens each day.
And as each day ends, it tells you which journal entry to read, which will tell you what happened in the world of Splendent Vale, and line up where you can now go the next day. Maybe there was a rainstorm and it's muddy and people need help, and you have to go over and help them the next day. Or there was a meteor shower, and now there's a place where you can explore that might have some more material that you're trying to gather. And it's all at the end of each day as you go and unwind, usually at the coffee shop. And then you get up the next day, have breakfast, and you're off adventuring again.
Yeah, but so at the end of the day, you can have interludes as well, where you can decide what you want to do based on what you need to do. If you need to craft, or if you need to gather more ingredients, you can do that too. But a lot of these will advance a storyline too, so you get to read something new from your book. Maybe it's dealing with your spouse at home or some other situation that's going on, and it just all builds into the whole story. But it is important writing those things down too, because the overarching adventure story is quite fascinating, and it's neat to watch it unfold. But there's lots of names, there's not lots of nuances, so writing it down gives you a dedicated area where you can really keep track of everything that's going on. And so I hope that wasn't too much or too rambly. That's a crux of everything we wanted to share with you about this game, because I absolutely adore this game. Now, we do have some few minor criticisms. The first one I have is that so as Harinya specifically, as I'm working with my potions, the different areas where I can write down how many of which ingredients I have are colored pieces. Now, all of this is meant to be erased and add, oh, I got a new one. Okay, I used it. Now erase it. Now add another one. Now it's two. But it's really, really hard to read. And that's the same thing when you gather materia. Materia is kind of like this magical element of this world that came from meteor. I believe, that fell, right? Yeah, that's kind of created it as, you'd think we'd look at that first. That's created this as like this magical place. So that makes it really challenging to keep track of that. And even when we're getting like hit points, where we're writing it down and we're constantly like erasing and adding in, I really don't know how that would be fixed. It's kind of a little bit tricky that way, except for, at least with our ingredient things, it would be nice if it was just on white, because the colored texture underneath makes it really hard to write the ingredients in and see it.
So one of the problems I have is in the action maps, the square tiles, the square spaces they're bricks, and the way the bricks are drawn, it's sometimes difficult to see, is this part of the space or is that part of the space? I think they're offset, almost like the hexes are, but trying to figure out, can I move, is this one space away, or is this another, is this the same space that I'm already in, can sometimes be a little confusing.
Now, the artwork is so beautiful and it's very thematic and such, but it can sometimes be a bit tricky to play, knowing exactly where. And another thing for me within the battles, I love the whole initiative of the characters at the top, but there have been times, and especially when we're only playing with 2 characters, that it's a long time till we can take our first turn. And we've had games where it's like, okay, they go. Like, I can be attacked 6 to 8 times before I get my first turn. And that sometimes kind of sucks a little bit, particularly if in your pool of dice you don't have any defense, so you're not getting much defense and you're just taking those as hits. So it can take a while until it's like, okay, I get to do my first turn now. But it is different than if you're playing with all the characters. Maybe one of the characters that you don't have playing was one of the first to go, and maybe the other person you weren't playing would have gone already too. Well, without them there has been nobody there to do any help before you finally get to your turn. So there have been a few times where that's been momentarily frustrating, but it works out once you finally get to go and you get to roll more dice, and now you can move, you can do some things. So overall, I actually really love the battle, the action sequence, but to be nitpicky, that is something that has on occasion bothered me. And I think that's it, eh? I don't think there's anything else.
Another nitpicky thing is sometimes within that day of your adventure, there is so much going on that they're telling you, now write this in your log on the back of the map. Now write this, now write this, now write this. And at some point, my handwriting is horrible, so Lola has been tracking that stuff, and her handwriting, even though she tries to write as small as she can and still be legible, she still has problems fitting everything in. Sometimes there's just so much that happened that day, it ends up kind of writing up a lot on the side.
Yeah, and you're writing it word for word for exactly what they tell you to write down for that day, and it doesn't always all fit. And so it would be nice to have a little bit more space there so you could fit everything there that you're supposed to be. So these are all,
maybe we're supposed to paraphrase and we just didn't know.
These are all very nitpicky criticisms, so very small, but they are things that we thought of. But generally, it's a fantastic game. It's a fantastic adventure, and I know, as Sean had mentioned at the beginning, that it's going to be one that we enjoy jumping into again. We've probably played about 20 games or so, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah, so we've played quite a few games so far. We're maybe about a quarter or a third of the way through the adventure story. So that's why we figured this was a good time to make the video. We have a really good solid feel for it. And if there is interest, let us know down below. We can do a final review of the entire thing once we've completed it. So if you're interested in this at all, I ask you to check it out. It is a beautiful game. They've tackled so many different things, and they've done it so well. The story is fun. The characters are fun to play with. The adventures, just everything about it. This game is a joy to play. Well, thank you so much for making it this far with us today.
Check out some of our other videos, and as always, happy gaming, folks.